Starlight fractured across the galactic Concord chamber, a cathedral of glass where 200 species mapped their fears into votes. Holographic sigils hovered like trapped constellations. Commander Arya Valen stood at the visitor's tier, hands locked behind her back. The agenda icon pulsed. Valera Prime. Emergency petition. The Valari envoy was scarcely taller than a child, cloaked in pale fabric. Its opal eyes seemed to drink the light. When it spoke, the translator thinned the voice to a whisper. We cannot fight. We can only plead. We ask shelter, not weapons. We ask not to be erased. A ripple moved through the amphitheater. Delegates practiced sorrow and calculation. On the dais, Chancellor Soren Kale raised a hand. Kale's skin held a metallic sheen. The Concord recognizes the plea, he said, voice smooth and amplified. But acknowledgement is not obligation. Arya felt the temperature drop. Her ship, TDS Resolute, waited in orbit, crew on standby. The Drakthar Dominion's approach vector spun above the dais, a spiral of red triangles converging on a green world. Cities blinked, labeled not in letters but in life counts. Kale gestured, and the model expanded to show fuel lines and threat corridors. We are spread thin, he continued. The frontier burns. The Valari offer no defenses, no strategic value. We have an obligation to the greatest number. The greatest number includes them, Arya said before she could swallow it. Heads turned. On the human bench, Ambassador Ruiz shot her a warning look. She raised her hand. Request to speak. Kale's gaze found her. You may, Commander Valen, briefly. Her mic clicked live. You call them strategically irrelevant. They're a people. Their cities are laboratories, gardens, schools. The Dominion will glass the planet because no one will stand in the way. We can. We must. From the Mirrodin block, a delegate lifted his translucent crest. Captain, your species is newly admitted. Your zeal is commendable. It is not policy. Policy is what we decide, Arya replied. Today. Ruiz leaned in, careful. The Terran delegation proposes a humanitarian corridor and escorts for evacuation ships. Minimal forces. Limited window. We commit logistics and medical support at our expense. The chamber murmured, relief at letting someone else be devoured. Kale did not sit. Put it to vote. Glyphs brightened, dimmed, settled. The tally spiraled overhead, in different numerals marching across a false sky. The Valari envoy never moved, only its hands tightened around a threadbare tassel. The count froze. Motion denied. Humans and a handful of outliers green. A sea of abstentions gray as ash. Kale spread both hands. The Concord regrets. We cannot endanger core worlds for one pacifist species on a resource-poor planet. We will send observers to document the regrettable incident. Arya's mouth tasted of iron. Observers, she said, to witness an extermination. Mind your tone, Commander, Kale answered gently. No one celebrates this. We survive it. The Valari envoy lowered its hood. Silence gathered. We remember, it said. We remember those who turned away. We will also remember those who did not. It bowed toward the human bench. Kale closed the docket. Next petition. Arya cut her mic and left. Ruiz intercepted her in the corridor. Arya. Don't. They voted to let them die. They voted to preserve the Concord. If you break ranks now, Earth pays. Sanctions, withdrawn patrols, embargoes. Your crew will be fugitives. You'll be court-martialed if they catch you. She stopped by a viewport. A magnified feed of Valera Prime filled the glass. Fires crawled across a continent like veins lit from within. We've done this before, she said. Watched a colony burn because the schedule said wait. Ruiz's voice softened. Sanctuary Ridge. A name. A scar. Civilians died while she held position, obeying a regulation written by someone who had never heard a last transmission dissolve into static. The law kept her record clean. Her conscience never forgave her. Humanity can't fight the Dominion alone, he said. Maybe not, she answered. But we can stand between a blade and a throat. I can't endorse this. I'm not asking you to. She straightened. I'm informing you. He hesitated, then pressed a data wafer into her palm. Encrypted channel keys. If you go off-grid, you'll need to reach someone who still wants to hear you. She closed her fingers around it. You're a good man, Ruiz. Don't say that where a recorder can hear. He glanced at a security lens and managed a humorless smile. You found them on the floor. They parted without ceremony. Arya took the lift to the docking ring. The station's spin laid steady gravity under her feet. Through bay windows, the Resolute waited with the patience of a crouched animal, hull lights pulsing a heartbeat. She keyed her wrist comm, bridge, Valen. Prep for departure. Lieutenant Harker answered. Clipped. We're under council lockdown, ma'am. Unlock it. A beat. Copy. She crossed the flex tunnel. Crew looked up and fell into motion. In the command well, screens bloomed with trajectories, fuel margins, enforcement patrol patterns. Harker rose from the helm. If we light drives, station control will vector security. Then we'll be fast, Arya said. And loud. Chief Engineer Sato spun a wrench and studied her. You're about to make us famous or unemployed. Both seems likely. She keyed ship-wide. Anyone who can't accept the risk can muster out now with full pay shares. No questions, no shadow on your record. Bridge doors will stay open for 2 minutes. No one moved. Harker's mouth quirked. Guess we're in it. Arya nodded. Set course for Valera Prime. Minimal jump signature. Broadcast on open bands. Humanitarian mission. That paints a target, Sato said. It also makes it harder to pretend we vanished without trying. Comms chimed. Council enforcement, stand down. Harker muted it and looked to Arya. Let them talk to our transponder, she said. Drive's hot, Sato reported. 3-2. Arya gripped the rail. All hands. This is not a drill. Today we choose what kind of species we are. The Resolute arrowed for the dark, alone and sufficient. The Resolute slipped free of the Concorde station like a wolf breaking its leash. Her hull cut the darkness. Drive plume wound tight against detection. On the bridge, silence replaced the steady chatter of dockside systems. Only the thrum of reactors filled the air, low and constant. Commander Arya Valen stood at the forward rail. The starfield shifted as navigators angled for a jump corridor. The charts glowed cold blue across the tactical sphere, Valera Prime marked in green, surrounded by crimson hazard cones. Dominion advance fleets were already sweeping the border. Transit solution ready, Lieutenant Harker reported. His voice carried the restraint of a man who knew hesitation could still undo them. 3 consecutive jumps. Staggered. Risk of intercept. Moderate to high. Moderate sounds generous, muttered Chief Engineer Sato, hands braced on a console. They're netting every corridor into that sector. Arya turned. Do we have another option? Not unless you'd like to invent teleportation, Sato said. Then moderate it is. Engage first jump. The stars shattered. Space folded, warped, collapsed into a tunnel of light. The crew held steady against the lurch, trained but tense. When reality smoothed again, the forward screen showed a field of fractured asteroids. Cold rock spun slow and silent. Clear, Harker confirmed. No pursuit detected. Arya exhaled. 1 down. Hours stretched between jumps. In the lull, she walked the decks. The crew had chosen to stay, but choice carried weight. She needed to read their eyes. Mess hall conversations hushed as she entered. Then the hum of voices returned. Ensign Malik looked up from ration packs. Captain, is it true? Council blacklisted us already. Arya paused. They declared us rogue. Any Terran ship caught assisting will be detained. And us? Malik asked. She met his gaze. We're past detention. A ripple of laughter, not loud but steady, moved through the room. Fear turned into something sharper. At the far table, Security Chief Torres leaned back. We all knew what signing on meant. My people would rather fight for something than stand guard over politicians clapping themselves on the back. Good, Arya said. Because there's no turning back. Second jump. Space twisted. then spilled them into another corridor. This time the alarms flared. "Contact!" Harker snapped. "Dominion Scout, 2 interceptors closing fast." Screens painted their outlines. Lean, blade-shaped craft built for speed and intimidation. "Helm, evasive," Arya ordered. "Guns lock." The Resolute heeled into a tight curve. Interceptors mirrored. Weapons brightening. Range closing. 30 seconds to firing envelope. "Torres." Targets painted. Firing. The ship jolted as kinetic rounds launched, screaming silently across the Gulf. One interceptor erupted, its hull shattering like black glass. The second peeled wide, raking energy fire across the Resolute's shields. "Minor burn aft section," Sato reported. "Shields holding." Arya's jaw tightened. "Helm, cut the circle. Bring us nose to nose." Harker grinned grimly. "Copy." The Resolute flipped, main drives flaring as she drove headlong into the path of the Dominion craft. It tried to bank, but human targeting locked faster. The main battery roared once. The interceptor fractured into incandescent shards. "Both targets destroyed," Torres confirmed. A hush followed. Then Malik's voice over comms. "That was for Valera." No one corrected him. By the third jump, the crew carried themselves differently. They had faced the Dominion and walked away alive. Not unscarred, but breathing. The screens bloomed green as Valera Prime rose before them. A world of wide oceans and verdant continents. Clouds swirled like white silk over turquoise seas. For a moment, it looked untouched. Then the tactical overlay drew scars. Dominion bombardments etched into cities. Smoke plumes drifting even visible from orbit. "God," Harker muttered. Arya steadied herself. Broadcast wideband. "Human vessel Resolute, on humanitarian mission. Valari leadership, if you hear this, we are here to evacuate and assist." Static crackled, then resolved into a voice fragile as glass. You came? We feared no one would." "This is Commander Valen," she answered. "We'll stand with you. Direct us to a secure landing zone." Another pause. Then coordinates appeared, tagged on the southern continent. "Lock it in," Arya said. The Resolute descended through gray clouds into devastation. Forests burned at the edges of cratered cities. Structures built like living sculptures, arches and spires woven from grown crystal, lay splintered across fields. Emergency beacons pulsed faintly among ruins. The landing bay opened. Shuttles prepped. Arya walked among them, helmet tucked beneath her arm. Her crew strapped gear in silence. "You're certain about surface insertion?" Torres asked. "Command presence might be better preserved aboard ship." "They need to see we didn't just send guns," Arya said. "They need to see faces." Torres gave a sharp nod. Minutes later, the shuttle broke atmosphere. The landing zone lay on the edge of a refugee camp, tents stretching along a riverbank. Thousands of Valari huddled there, their translucent skin dull with exhaustion. When the shuttle struts hit ground, the refugees drew back as one, frightened animals expecting new torment. The hatch opened. Arya stepped onto ash-dusted soil. The smell of smoke and salt water mingled in the air. A figure approached, taller than most Valari, bearing a staff inlaid with copper filaments. Its eyes shimmered faint blue. "You are human." "I am," Arya said. She inclined her head. "We came because no one else would." The Valari leader's hands trembled. "Our people believed we were a burden, that we should vanish quietly. Why would you risk yourselves?" Arya met the gaze squarely. "Because turning away makes us less. Saving you makes us more." The leader's throat caught, a sound like wind in glass. Around them, refugees leaned forward. For the first time since landing, the fear in their posture shifted, still wary, but touched with hope. Back aboard the shuttle, Torres leaned close. "They'll follow you anywhere now." "They don't need to follow me," Arya said, watching the camp recede through the viewport. "They just need to survive." The shuttle lifted into bruised skies, carrying both refugees and the weight of a promise. The Resolute awaited above, its silhouette dark against a world still burning. Arya strapped in and spoke quietly to her crew. "We're not just rescuing a people. We're proving what humans are in this galaxy. The Dominion will come for them again. The Concord will stand aside again. That leaves us. Only us. No one argued. The engines roared, driving them skyward into the gathering night. The alarms rose like a tide across the Resolute. Red bands pulsed along the walls, and the tactical sphere filled with motion. A Dominion raiding wing had slipped past the Concord border nets, curving straight for Valera Prime. On the bridge, Commander Arya Valen studied the formation. 6 raiders, fast, armored, built to terrorize. Their vector pointed toward the southern refugee camps, where only canvas and hope shielded the Valari. "Range to target?" she asked. 8 minutes, Harker answered at the helm. His jaw was tight. "They're ignoring us, heading for the surface." "Not for long." Arya turned. "Torres, prep strike batteries. Sato, full shield output. We hold them here." "Aye," both replied. The raiders came in hard, ignoring the lone human ship as if it were an insect. Then the Resolute burned drive and cut across their path. Weapons spun live. Red lights bathed the bridge. Torres's voice carried over comms. "Batteries locked. Fire." Kinetic rounds lanced outward, brilliant streaks against the void. One raider cracked open, its reactor spilling blue flame. The others broke formation, turning on the intruder at last. "They've noticed," Harker muttered. Energy fire hammered shields. The deck trembled under the impact. Arya gripped the rail, voice level. "Return fire. Stay nose on. We can't let them through." The Resolute wheeled, guns flaring again. Another raider spiraled out, hull cleaved in two. 4 remained, circling, hunting for a gap. In the medbay below, Valari refugees watched the battle through open feeds. Their eyes reflected each flash like tiny suns. One young Valari whispered, "Why do they fight for us?" "We have nothing to give." Dr. Chen glanced at them while sealing a wound. "Because sometimes doing the right thing is the only reason needed." The word spread, soft, uncertain, but repeated. On the bridge, the fight narrowed to knives' edges. The raiders struck from different angles, forcing the Resolute to spin and lash fire both directions. Shields flickered. A console blew sparks across the deck. "Forward shields at 30%. Sato called. "Any more and we're bare metal." Arya didn't blink. "Then we don't give them another shot. Helm, dive under the lead. Bring us inside their line. Torres, ready forward cannons." The Resolute plunged, skimming beneath a raider's belly. Its weapons couldn't track fast enough. Torres fired point blank. The enemy ship disintegrated, scattering debris into its wingmates. "3 down," Torres said, voice tight but alive. "Keep going," Arya replied. The Dominion ships pulled back, regrouping. Their commander must have realized this wasn't a patrol skirmish, it was defiance. The 4 survivors drew into a diamond, converging weapons on the Resolute. "Captain," Harker warned, "they're preparing a saturation volley. They'll try to burn us down in one go." Arya measured the moment. "Then we move first. Overload the drives. Bleed the capacitors into forward batteries." "All of it." Sato spun. "That risks reactor collapse." "Not if we end this before they fire." Silence. Then Sato swore under his breath and keyed the sequence. "Bleeding now. You'd better be right." The lights dimmed. Power bled into the guns until the ship itself seemed to hum with violence. "Torres," Arya said, calm and steady, "fire everything." The Resolute spat fury. Every cannon discharged in a single thunderous salvo. The volley ripped through the Dominion formation, tearing 2 ships apart instantly. A third tumbled crippled, engines sputtering. The last, suddenly alone, cut drives and jumped away. The bridge filled with silence broken only by the hiss of damaged circuits. Then the crew exhaled in unison. "Enemy retreat," Torres reported. "Casualties?" Arya asked. "Minimal. Superficial damage. 2 injured in aft compartments." Arya nodded once. "Get them patched. Helm, steady orbit." Hours later, the Valari leader from the camp stood in the Resolute's briefing room, hands folded around his staff. His eyes shimmered with tears not yet shed. "You drove them away," he said softly. "We have never seen resistance to the Dominion. We believe them inevitable." Arya leaned forward across the table. "Nothing is inevitable. You survived because you stood, because we stood with you." The leader shook his head. "You stood. We only watched." "You'll do more than watch," Arya said. "We'll teach you to build defenses, to hide what can't be defended, to endure. But today, you're alive. That's the first step." The Valari's voice cracked. "We are not worth your blood." Arya held his gaze. "Every life is worth it. That's the point." Her words carried further than she expected. Crew members repeated them across the ship. Refugees clung to them in whispers. It became a litany spoken at meal tables and in medbays. Every life is worth it. But the Concorde did not share the sentiment. When the official channels reconnected, a message blared across the bridge. "To the rogue vessel Resolute, you are hereby ordered to stand down and submit to custody for unlawful engagement in protected space. Your actions endanger Concorde stability. Cease operations immediately. Harker muttered. "Stability. Right. They call letting people burn stability." Arya read the words without expression. "Log the transmission. Do not respond." "Captain," Torres warned. "That's a direct order." Arya looked around at her crew, every face waiting. "They ordered us to abandon a species to slaughter. I'll take their court, their prison, whatever they throw. But not their silence." The bridge held steady. No one objected. Later, alone in her quarters, Arya stared at the stars beyond the viewport. She knew what the Council would do. Sanctions, blockades, maybe even Concorde ships sent to drag her back. But none of it outweighed the sight she had seen that day. A Dominion fleet breaking apart under human fire while the Valari watched hope spark for the first time. Her comm chimed. Ruiz's face appeared, grainy through the encrypted channel. "You're already a headline," he said. "Council is furious. They'll brand you a warmonger." "They can brand me what they like," Arya answered. "As long as the Valari survive." He studied her in silence, then gave a weary nod. "I'll keep feeding you intel where I can. But Arya, be careful. You're not just fighting the Dominion. You're fighting the Concorde too." "I know." Her eyes hardened. "But some fights pick you, not the other way around." She closed the channel and turned back to the stars. The Dominion would return with more ships. The Concorde would tighten its noose. Both truths waited just beyond the horizon. Still, she felt no hesitation. Humanity had drawn its line, and she would hold it, no matter the cost. The Dominion arrived at dawn. Arya Valen stood on the bridge of the Resolute as the tactical sphere filled with red. Not half a dozen raiders this time. An entire assault wing. Carriers, cruisers, frigates. Enough firepower to erase a planet. Their shadow fell across Valera Prime, blotting the upper atmosphere with a lattice of warships. "Count?" she asked, voice level. Harker swallowed hard. 37 signatures. They're deploying dropships already. Torres's hand hovered over weapons control. That's not a raid. That's extermination." Arya let the moment breathe. Let the crew take in what they faced. "Then this is where we stop them." The first volley came swift. Plasma lances raked the upper shields, lighting the hull in white fire. The ship shook, warning sirens screaming. "Forward shield integrity at 60%, Sato reported, fingers flying across controls. Arya braced against the rail. "Helm, keep us between the Dominion and the surface. We hold this line." Harker grit his teeth. "Holding." The Resolute turned broadside, intercepting the incoming fire. Her guns flared back, cutting into a frigate's hull. Sparks of wreckage drifted into the void, tiny fragments swallowed by the black. Below, Valari civilians huddled in the camps. They watched the sky burn with streaks of fire. The once quiet people murmured prayers, not to gods, but to the ship that dared stand alone. In the command tent, the Valari leader pressed a hand to a trembling aide. "They are not leaving. They are a wall of iron." The aide whispered, "How can they win?" The leader's voice steadied. "By not stepping aside." On the bridge, The battle thickened. Dominion cruisers spread wide, trying to encircle. "They're attempting to flank," Torres warned. "Then make them pay for every angle," Arya ordered. "Concentrate fire. Cripple one before the others close." The Resolute drove forward, her cannons pouring fire into a cruiser's broadside. Armor peeled back. Secondary explosions tore the ship apart. The Dominion wing faltered, then surged again with twice the fury. Sato cursed. "Shields bleeding fast. Core overload in 10 if we keep burning at this rate." "Options?" Arya asked. "Pray," he shot back, then grimaced. "Or vent auxiliary batteries and reroute to shields. But we'll lose half our heavy firepower." "Do it," Arya said. "We live longer with shields than with cannons." A blast rocked the bridge. One console erupted, throwing an ensign to the deck. Medics rushed in, dragging him away. Arya forced herself not to flinch. She knew the cost of command. Every scream, every body was hers to carry. "Torres," she said, low but steady, "target their dropships. Nothing gets through to the surface." "Yes, Captain." The Resolute's guns shifted, raking fire across the fragile transports. 2 detonated instantly, a third spun out trailing fire. But others slipped through, diving toward the planet. "Ground insertion confirmed," Harker said grimly. Arya slammed her hand on the rail. "Then we fight them down there too." Minutes later, shuttles launched from the Resolute, dropping Marines into the Valari camps. Torres led the squad himself, rifle in hand. The Valari watched wide-eyed as humans hit the ground running, setting up barricades, positioning artillery from cargo haulers. "Get those civilians behind cover," Torres barked. "If you can lift, haul crates. If you can't, dig trenches. Everyone has a job." For the first time, the Valari moved not to flee, but to help. Their delicate hands pulled fabric into walls, dragged supplies, even carried wounded. Small, trembling, but refusing to stand idle. In orbit, the Resolute fought on. 3 Dominion cruisers boxed them, trading fire at brutal range. The hull shuddered with each impact. "Port armor failing," Sato shouted. Arya's voice cut through. "Helm, roll us. Keep the fresh plating forward." The ship groaned as it spun, but the tactic bought them seconds. Seconds enough for another volley. A cruiser erupted, shattering into pieces that drifted across the void. Harker laughed once, sharp and breathless. "That's one more gone." Arya's eyes stayed on the red flood still massed ahead. "Not enough yet." Down below, Dominion infantry spilled from their landers, towering reptilian forms clad in black alloy. Their roars rattled the air. The Valari shrank back, trembling. Torres stepped forward, rifle raised. "Line hold. Fire." Human weapons lit the field, cutting into the Dominion advance. The Valari gasped at the ferocity. Humans did not hesitate, did not retreat. They stood shoulder to shoulder, answering monstrosity with stubborn fire. A Valari youth dropped the crate he carried, then picked up a shard of crystal from the ruins. He drove it into the dirt, marking a line. "Here," he whispered. "Here we hold." Others followed, planting more shards, a fragile barrier. Torres saw it, and for a moment his throat caught. He barked louder, as if to bury the feeling. "You heard them. Hold the line." Back in orbit, warning klaxons wailed again. "Dominion reinforcements inbound," Harker said. "Another wave from the outer ring." "We can't hold this forever." Arya studied the incoming signatures. They were outnumbered 10-1, maybe worse. Still she straightened, voice calm. "We don't need forever. We need long enough." "Long enough for what?" Sato asked. "For the Valari to remember this day." The words settled like iron across the crew. No one argued. The Dominion surged, ships closing from every angle. The Resolute turned, bleeding fire, defiant. "Captain," Torres's voice cut through comms from the surface. Explosions echoed behind him. "We're holding ground, but barely. Civilians are fighting too. Never seen anything like it. They're standing because we are." Arya's eyes burned. "Then keep standing." Hours dragged into night. The battle became endurance, Every minute a stolen miracle. The Resolute floated scarred, shield shredded, plating blistered, but still alive. Below, Valari and humans fought side by side among the tents and trenches. At last, Dominion command ships shifted formation. Harker's voice rose in disbelief. They're pulling back. On the surface, Dominion infantry retreated toward their landers, harried by human fire. The Valari chased them with stones, shards, anything at hand, small bodies defiant against giants. When the last Dominion signature vanished from the scopes, silence fell across the bridge. Smoke drifted through the air. Screens flickered, some dead entirely. Crews slumped in their chairs, too drained to cheer. Arya closed her eyes briefly, then straightened. Damage report. Sato cleared his throat. We're half a ship, but still flying. Casualties. 12 confirmed, more wounded. The weight pressed against her chest. She nodded once. We'll honor them. Later. For now we breathe. Harker leaned back, exhausted. We actually held them. Arya looked out at Valera Prime below, battered but unbroken. Yes. But they'll come again. No one needed to ask if they'd still be there when it happened. The answer hung in the silence like a vow. The Resolute drifted like a scarred sentinel above Valera Prime. Hull plating blackened, sections vented to vacuum, but her lights still burned. On the bridge, every display showed damage warnings stacked over one another. The Dominion fleet had broken off hours ago, but the silence that followed felt more dangerous than fire. Arya Valen stood at the forward rail, gaze fixed on the tactical sphere. "Status?" she asked quietly. Sato rubbed weary eyes. "Reactor stable, barely. Shields offline. We can maneuver, but no heavy weapons. We've bled this ship dry. Crew: 14 dead, 22 wounded." His voice dipped. "More than we can afford." The names echoed in her chest. She carried each one like weight in her lungs, but her tone stayed even. "See to the wounded first. The ship can wait." Below, in the camps, Valari survivors wandered through smoke and broken shelters. Dominion corpses littered the ground. Massive forms sprawled beside fragile shards planted by Valari hands. For the first time in their history, the Valari had fought, not with strength, but with presence. Torres walked the lines, rifle slung, exhaustion etched into every step. He stopped when he saw the Valari leader planting new crystals in the dirt. "You're rebuilding already?" Torres asked. The leader pressed a shard deep, his voice steady. "We lived through the night. That is reason enough to begin." Back on the Resolute, comms crackled. "Incoming transmission," Harker said. "It's not Dominion. Concord Council." The bridge tensed. Arya gave a curt nod. "Put it through." The screen filled with Chancellor Kale's face, composed as ever. "Commander Valen," he said, voice smooth. "Against orders, you engaged the Dominion and endangered the stability of the Concord. Yet, your ship still stands. Valera Prime still stands." Arya said nothing. Kale's tone cooled. "Your actions will be addressed. Humanity cannot dictate policy by rogue intervention. But you have made an impression on the galaxy." Harker muttered under his breath. "That's one way to put it." Kale continued. "Do not mistake this for absolution. There will be hearings, sanctions, inquiries. But know this, your defiance has been seen. Even those who voted to abandon Valera now question the cost of such indifference." The transmission cut. Torres, patched in from the surface, let out a humorless laugh. "So that's it. We bleed, they debate." Arya leaned forward, resting her hands on the console. "Let them. The Valari are alive. That's what matters." But survival was not enough. Dominion forces still lingered at the edge of the system, regrouping. Another assault was certain. The Resolute couldn't weather another battle in her state. Arya gathered her officers in the war room. The holomap glowed dim, entire sections offline. "They'll come again," she began. "And we can't stop them like this." Sato grimaced. "We'd barely last an hour." Harker leaned forward. "Unless we find another way. Their cruisers run on paired reactors, right? Overload one. The feedback cripples the entire system. Torres frowned. That's theory. We've never tested it. The Valari have, a voice said. All eyes turned. The Valari leader had entered quietly, his staff glowing faint. Our kind feel the Dominion's minds. Their technology resonates with them. We sense patterns, flaws. If your people trust us, we can help you strike where it hurts most. Sato raised a brow. You're telling me you can feel their engineering? The leader nodded. Their hunger makes them blind. But we see what they overlook. Arya studied him, then her crew. You heard him. We'll take every edge we can. The Dominion returned at dusk. 10 ships this time, fewer than before, but bristling with weapons. They advanced without hesitation, certain the broken Terran vessel would crumble. On the bridge, Arya stood calm. Ready. Torres gripped his console. As we'll ever be. Harker's eyes flicked between readings. Targets locked. The Valari leader's voice came through comms, eerie and steady. Strike the third from the left. Aim beneath its ventral array. Fire, Arya commanded. The Resolute's cannon spat what little fury they had left. At first the shot seemed wasted, then the targeted cruiser shuddered. Its paired reactors cascaded into overload, chain lightning ripping across its hull. A heartbeat later, the entire ship tore apart in a flash that blinded sensors. Cheers broke across the bridge. Again, the Valari leader urged. The one with the slanted prow. Its flow is unstable. The crew obeyed. Another shot, another chain reaction, another cruiser gone. The Dominion fleet faltered. Within minutes, the assault broke. Dominion ships scattered, retreating into the dark. For the first time, they fled, not from overwhelming firepower, but from an enemy they thought impossible. Harker sagged back in his chair, grinning through exhaustion. We actually beat them. Torres slammed a fist against the console. They ran. Sato let out a long, shuddering breath. We're still alive. Arya didn't celebrate. Her gaze remained fixed on the retreating signatures. They'll be back. Stronger. But now they know we're not prey. After the battle, the Valari invited Arya to the camp. Fires flickered in the twilight, and children ran between tents for the first time without fear. The leader approached, carrying something in both hands. It was a small carving, worn smooth by time, a child's toy in the shape of a bird. This was found in the ruins, he said softly. It belonged to one who did not live to see you come. Now it belongs to you. A memory that not all turned away. Arya took it, feeling its weight despite its lightness. Her throat tightened. I'll keep it safe. The leader bowed. Your people showed us that mercy is not weakness. It is strength that even the Dominion cannot understand. Behind him, voices rose. Valari voices, no longer whispers. A chant, halting at first, then gathering force. Not in their language, but in the human tongue they had learned from soldiers in the mud. Every life is worth it. The words carried across the camp, echoing under the night sky. Back aboard the Resolute, Arya placed the carving on her desk. The ship still groaned with wounds, her crews still bore scars, and the Concorde still waited with threats. But none of it outweighed what she had seen, the moment a defenseless people chose to live, because humans had refused to leave them behind. Harker's voice broke over comms. Captain, orders? Arya looked at the stars, cold and wide, and answered without hesitation. Set course for Earth. We have a message to deliver. What message? Sato asked from engineering. Arya's voice rang steady, carrying to every corner of the battered ship. That mercy is strength, and humanity will never turn away. The Resolute's engines lit, dragging her scarred frame into the dark. Alone, defiant, but no longer unheard.